right, so I'm jumping to the dev server. I'm getting my stuff set up so I can show you guys some of the aim stuff. Give me 1 second here. All right, so I'm in my dev server and I've turned on bullet impact. So when I shoot, you get a little red dot exactly where the bullet hit. So it makes it's good for diagnostic purposes. I can also turn on my lasers as well, so I can show you guys, some of that diagnostic information in terms of the shooting. But I wanted to cover these aiming tips with you guys because, as I said, a lot of people ask these questions on the forums, in the game. They want to know how the weapons work, how they can improve their gun game. So, putting together the bullet mechanics, I wanted to cover that with some of you guys. So here's the deal. There's a lot of different mechanics that are built into this game, and it's also a combination of a couple different games that kind of came together. Because we took a bullet mechanic system that we developed on Counter-Strike that had completely custom recoil, completely custom spray, and that was it. That's what the Counter-Strike one was. But then we brought it all over to Insurgency, and we couldn't really use our recoil. So we have like this hybrid of our spray, but Insurgency recoil mechanics. So it has a lot of different aspects going on, a lot of different factors at play. So when you're spraying, that's when you hold down for an extended period of time. So you can see there was inaccuracy. Aside from the gun just kicking itself, the bullets weren't hitting dead center as I started spraying more. Now, if, bursting, so tip number one, and it's a pretty common one, bursting is a really, great way to be more accurate. A lot of people ask, how can I improve my accuracy? And I see them spraying like all hell. Well, bursting will keep your bullets close together and improve your chances of really hitting that player. It's the long-term spray that really kills it. Now, basically, when you move, that also provides a level of accuracy. I mean, if you're running and trying to shoot, that's way worse than standing still. So you can see if I stand still and I shoot, that bullet was perfect. I mean, there was the kick up of my recoil after the fact, but if I try to shoot on the same spot again, boom, like, it's a perfect shot. But like, watch what happens if I'm running. So you get that level of inaccuracy as you move. So you can see the bullet isn't always hitting exactly where you're aiming. And that's because as you're running faster and faster, you're getting more and more inaccurate. So, if you really want to be accurate, you need to either slow down, start ADSing. ADSing is a great way to improve your accuracy in terms of slowing down because it lowers your movement speed automatically. It lowers your sensitivity automatically based on that sensitivity setting. It's a really great way to do those longer shots, and you can't be moving like that. Obviously, if you're in a close range gun battle, it's not as big of a deal, but I can't tell you how many times I see people, especially with sniper rifles, like they'll pop out and shoot, and they'll wonder why their bullet is so off, and it's basically just because when you're moving so much, it has that inaccuracy. You really want to move out and shoot as you start to slow down if you're a sniper. I think T just posted a video on the forums, which is a really great example of that, where he was sniping and showing how he was able to snipe players very accurately, like one after the other, and it's a prime example of really trying to make sure you have that solid accuracy by not moving too much when you're shooting. Now, these mechanics do take some other things into account. The spray system is still very basic, so like crouching and proning and stuff, they don't have as much of an effect on your spray per se. Now, the ADSing will. That definitely makes it so you have a tighter shot in a sense. But the recoil itself, remember, is the Insurgency recoil system. On Counter-Strike, in fact, let's always go to the video we reference. Fuck it, we got the time. I'm gonna pull it up. Well, we don't have the time at all, but it's an important video. So, and I usually pull it up. So let's pull it up. Because I already see questions about crosshair movement and all that kind of stuff. So this is a really great way to cover it all and just get it all the way. So let's jump right to the Counter-Strike video that we always go to for reference, and then jump back in here, and I'll keep going with these tips. All right, here we go, guys. This is a really important video, so I would check this out for a second if you're not paying attention. This is an old video we made back maybe March or April from our Counter-Strike mod, Socom Go. On Socom Go, we developed a completely custom bullet mechanic system that basically tries to be as much like Socom's as possible, and we got a really, really good one. So Biggs put this video together, and basically he went on Socom 2 and Socom Go and shot. Now you can see the crosshair doesn't move, but ignore that for a second. Pay attention to the bullet patterns. He does a slow-mo for you right here. So watch what happens. You can see the shots have that upward increase, but then reach their max kick up, and then really start to spread out as you get to the top and kick around a bit. And it will pull back down too. It's exactly like the original Socom bullet mechanics. The only thing missing is the crosshair, you know, going up with it and coming down with it is the snap, which I know a lot of you guys ask about. So you know, a lot of you guys ask about that, and that the point is, we didn't want to have Insurgency be the same way, where the bullets would go up, but your crosshair would do nothing. It was just too weird. And the nice part of Insurgency was they had a built-in recoil system. It's not the recoil we wanted, but it was something. So I shoot, and at least my gun has a kick up. The end goal here is to override this system where there's no camera kick up, but we're actually able to make the crosshair itself kick up. And then we can put our old recoil back. But the fact of the matter is, we haven't. Can you link the video in the chat? Yeah, in fact, I'm sorry I didn't. 1 second, I'll give it to you right. Okay, so I put the link in the chat to the video. I definitely recommend checking it out again if you guys want to see it again. The goal is to make the crosshairs kick up like we've always wanted, and then to re-implement those recoil systems. The fact of the matter is that's not the case right now. We have all of our spray, but we don't have our recoil, so we use the Insurgency recoil. The Insurgency recoil is heavily dependent on things, so like leaning will give you a little more recoil than normal. Crouching is a great way to reduce your recoil. Proning is a great way to reduce it more. The kick up in prone is far less prominent than if I'm standing. Far, far less prominent. I've had people ask about the bipod and whether it affects their spray. Again, no, the spray system is very basic in its nature right now. It's not incorporating a lot of these Insurgency mechanics. But for example, when you deploy a bipod, that pretty much removes a large majority of your recoil. So a lot of these mechanics in the game are a great way, because that's part of the inaccuracy, guys. You can burst all you want, and by bursting you'll eliminate a lot of that spray aspect, but it doesn't change the fact that you're gonna have those Insurgency recoil kick, and that's what's gonna make it hard to peck those headshots and those kinds of things, because the crosshair is not gonna pull back for you. You do not have the convenience of tap, comes back, tap, it comes back. You have to manually do that yourself. It's a great way to counteract the overpoweredness of the mouse in a sense, but it's really not the mechanic we're looking for in third person itself. But this is what we have to play with right now, so you really need to keep that in mind. You know, crouching, proning, and bipods can really help with the recoil, and just when it comes to your spray, you really want to get in the habit of bursting, ADSing for the long range shots so you can be more accurate, and not running around like, oh, the faster you run, the worse your aim is going to be. I mean, that's just a natural mechanic of the game. So those are some of those, you know, base tips that I can give you guys in order to really improve your gun game. Favor the bursting. Try to, you know, slow down when you're really trying to shoot those more accurate, longer range shots. And the biggest one that I haven't really covered yet is just the fact, and I know this, I don't want to get too technical here, and I'm going to try not to, but it's important that you guys understand, Insurgency is a first-person game, right? The game was only intended to be played like this. All these third-person mechanics are not built into this game. All the bullet mechanics are being calculated by a server remotely. Nothing is done on your local machine. This means there's a delay between bullet calculations and when you receive them, which means you have bullet delay in how the bullets perform on your screen. I spent many months fine-tuning a system that fakes it really, really well, but the big problem is when you're shooting, your shots have to be instantaneous. It cannot wait for the server to come back with that bullet data, so it's kind of fake in that sense. And the big problem that I see from people is they really try to rely on the shot in terms of where they see the bullet shooting. Like, they'll see some damage on people and think that that's exactly what's happening, which I get makes intuitive sense, but unfortunately it's not. We're not built into this game. This is attached on. It's very hacky. And the other big one is just not only that the bullets as you shoot them aren't really kind of going the way you see them, but at the same time, you know, the crosshair color changes have those delays as well. The crosshairs are not built into the game. There's a delay between when they turn red, guys. I know you think like when it turns red, if you pull the trigger right then and there, you should be hitting them. There's a delay. It's not a built-in mechanic of the game. I want to make it a built-in mechanic one day. I want to have all these improved modding tools in order to allow you guys to customize crosshairs that are built into the game itself and have crosshair kicks and expansions of, so the yellow, these yellow crosshairs can actually expand as you shoot and all that cool stuff, but we just don't have that yet. So you can't rely on the color change in terms of timing, and you can't rely on the bullets that you see or even the bullets on the wall in terms of timing. You have to go on the feel of the weapon. I cannot stress that enough. I cannot stress that enough. It's not just about the bursting, it's not just about the movement. You have to trust the feel. Because if you're trying to go on the look, you'll always suffer from a server delay. And that is the biggest trick. Don't trust the crosshair color change. It's just to have that mechanic and to truly identify if someone's an enemy or teammate. You can't rely on it in terms of you see the color change and you shoot. You have to rely on your own ability to time the shot with the actual dot itself. It's very, very important. When you aim slowly back and forth and right, does your crosshair slow down significantly, almost to a stop for about a quarter of a second? Is this Insurgency or has it to do with the mod? Great question. I get this question a lot, and I'm going to explain to you guys what happens right now. It has nothing to do with Insurgency. It has nothing to do with your computers. It does it on my own system as well. I'm going to tell you guys a really great trick in order to prevent it from happening. This goes with, it's a great question. I'm glad you asked that, man. That is a perfect question. It goes exactly with what I was just talking about. These custom crosshairs, guys, because they're not built into the game, there's no crosshair mechanics. Like I said, I want to build them into the game being a dev. Now, I'd love to have expanding crosshairs that kick up and snap back down, all that stuff, but right now, there's no crosshairs in this game. All I've done is reapproximate bullet mechanics that shoot in the center of your screen. But the trick is, in order for you to identify the center of your screen, I've put a texture on top of your screen that puts a dot in the center. This is a texture, guys. It never moves. It never changes. But how do the color changes work? How do the X's work? Well, it's a new texture. When the X pops up, this is a different texture. When I put it on an enemy or teammate and it changes color, that's a new texture. Here's what you guys have to understand. These textures cannot only be localized to the size of the crosshair. They have to be the full size of your screen, meaning it's a 1920 by 1080 compressed image. Normally when you do them, they're about maybe a meg or two in size for that size of a texture. The problem is when it comes to transparency, they turn out really blurry. The crosshairs are so blurry, they suck. And because it's such an important mechanic of your aim, the crosshairs have to be very fine. They have to be very detailed. So we used uncompressed texture crosshairs. In our crosshair tutorial that Jen Speed put together for us, thank you, by the way, Jen Speed, for doing that. If you're out there, we really appreciate it. If you guys go to the development page on the website, there's explanations that show you how to make custom crosshairs. It talks about your texture settings when you make those crosshairs. If you use super compressed textures, which I recommend doing for the dots and stuff, your textures will load really quickly. But if not, and you use the uncompressed ones so they have to look really nice, they don't. You'll notice this when you load the game. If you switch weapons to get the different crosshairs, your game will lock up because it takes forever to load those gigantic uncompressed texture crosshairs. So then what happens? Well, when you're putting your crosshair on the teammate, it has to, at that second, load the red crosshair. And when you put it on a teammate, it has to load the green crosshair. And when it does that, you're gonna get the tick. It's only the first time it loads it. As you're playing, it's cached, it's in, you can go from there. But you'll notice the first time you put your crosshair on an enemy, the first time you load the obstruction crosshair, the first time you put it on a teammate, and just switching between them, you'll notice the hiccups, the freezes, and it sucks. I know it. I'm sorry. There's just nothing I can do about it until we build a custom crosshair mechanic system in the game itself, which I'd have to take the time to do in my free time, and then also have permission in order to put that in the game to attach. But I think it would be a great thing to have for modding. I think it'd be a great thing to go with the camera. I also want to ask permission in order to fix the collision, because there's no camera collision, guys. Even though it collisions the outward distance, it doesn't collision the upward distance. So when you look down, if you think about it, the camera's going down and up, which means it's going down towards the ground and back towards the wall. Well, the movement back towards the wall isn't being collisioned, only the downward one. So as you do that, your camera can actually go in the wall and turn black. I have my own code that fixes it. Look, the camera snaps closer. That's my code doing that, which helps, but it doesn't fix it all the time. If I can put in custom collision, custom crosshair mechanics, this will play like a third-person game. But right now, there's nothing we can do about it. So when you start the game, when you first load it, I highly recommend. You'll always notice when I play, guys, I go like this. That's why I'm preloading all my crosshairs so I don't get the freezes while I'm playing. There's not much you can do about the red, but I mean, you can put your green on your teammate real quick, but you want to get in the habit of loading up your game and doing this because it's a way to cache the textures when you first boot up. I know it sucks, I know it's a shitty system, but it's the best we can do at this time with modding the game. So it has nothing to do with your computers being sucky. It has nothing to do with your graphics. It's all about reloading the new crosshairs. The first time it renders it, it's going to take forever. But you know what, guys? It's worth the hiccup to have that and to have a crystal clear crosshair as opposed to having the crosshair be all blurry and shitty. And because if you guys go look at old videos of the mod on my YouTube, my personal YouTube, like, the original crosshairs we used in that like pre-alpha and shit, guys, the white dot was huge. The white X was gigantic. Like, in order to fine-tune these things and get them really tiny, you have to have crystal clear crosshairs. So I'm sorry that they're uncompressed and they're so big. You can make your own and you don't have to if you don't want to. But when you're using these ones, you definitely need to get in the habit of doing that. If you're experiencing slowdowns unrelated to crosshair changes themselves, that might be something to do with your recoil system. Maybe you're using a controller or something. I know the controllers have a different set of recoil parameters, which we can tune independently of the other weapons, so that could be it. But I don't know, I'm not really sure.